The Blair Witch Project is a 1999 psychological found footage horror movie that was written, directed, and edited by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez. While The Blair Witch Project wasn't the first found footage horror movie, that was The Connection, which came out in 1961, it is more or less what has made the subgenre into the gargantuan thing that it is today. The movie itself follows three film students, Mike, Heather, and Josh, as they travel to Burkittsville, Maryland, to make a documentary about the fabled Blair Witch. While they are in the town, they ask the locals what they know about the witch, and most talk about how it is just a story they were told to scare them as kids. But there are some who believe the legends and the stories and try to convince them to not go in the woods. But being the dumb college kids they are, they go in anyway. And let's be honest, there wouldn't be a movie if they didn't go into the woods. I would also like to mention that when this movie came out in 1999, it was heavily marketed as actual found footage. Like, the stars weren't allowed to attend premieres, weren't allowed to do press conferences or anything like that. And they actually made, one of the promotional websites was like a missing person site for the three actors. But I digress. While in the woods, they are our only narrative source. They are filming everything we see. Kind of just have to trust what they're showing us and what they're talking about is actually going on. There are only eyes in the woods. There are no third-party perspective or anything like that. It is everything that they are filming with their cameras. There is one scene where they're talking in the morning after waking up for the day, and they're talking about things that they heard during the night. There's one part where this happens where they talk about hearing like twigs snapping in the night and things like that, but we don't ever hear that. Like, they don't film during when this happens. I believe there's another point where they talk about hearing kids screaming in the night. Again, we never see it. They just talk about it, and we have to kind of take their word for it. Well, and for all we know, they could just be making these things up. It could just be one giant charade for they're like, hey, listen, we're in these creepy woods. If we just say this is all going on, we don't film it, nobody will really know. There's another scene where when they arrive at the cemetery, and they see the cairns, I believe it is pronounced, which is like the rock piles, are set up. And then the next morning when they wake up, there's, I believe, 3 of them around the tent.
This morning, just like 2 seconds ago, and there are piles of rocks outside of our tent. There are 3 actually.
Seriously fucking positive those weren't there?
I am seriously fucking positive these were not here. How would we have, like, just made a campsite in between 3 piles of rocks just by coincidence?
Again, we don't see who or what did this. They're just found like that. So for all we know, before they arrived at the cemetery, they could have set them up and then during the night moved them to be around the tent. And they're just like, oh no, spooky things. And in all actuality, we never do see who or what is attacking or haunting the woods around Burkittsville. So for all we know, well, obviously we know as the audience today that everything was faked, but in the universe of this movie, everything could have been faked and planned all along, and it was just one giant publicity stunt by 3 film students fresh out of college who knew a regular documentary wouldn't do as good as a spooky, ooh, we're missing now documentary. And that is everything I have to say.